This is a broadcast of SmallCapVoice.com, a financial communications and investor relations firm. SmallCapVoice.com receives payment for investor relations and financial consulting services that it provides to its clients. You should assume that officers, directors, and employees of SmallCapVoice.com or financial analysts mentioned and their families hold a position and intend to trade in these securities for their own accounts. This is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell securities. Information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as, investment advice. As in all investments, an investment in the featured company carries an investment risk. Listeners should review the company thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This broadcast does not purport to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used and statements of fact have been obtained from the featured company and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by SmallCapVoice.com as to completeness or accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice.
You're wired in. SmallCapVoice.com. Following is a presentation of SmallCapVoice.com, today's leader in investor relations, capital formation, and retail support. Now, with your online business briefing, SmallCapVoice.com's Stuart T. Smith.
Welcome one, welcome all to this online business briefing brought to you by SmallCapVoice.com. And as you just heard, I'm your host, Stuart Smith. And we're joined today for the very first time by GreeneStone Healthcare Corporation, traded under the ticker symbol GRST. And we are lucky enough to be joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the company, Mr. Shawn Leon. Shawn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Stuart. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to stop by and speak with us here today at SmallCapVoice.com. Now, for our listeners who may not be familiar with your company, if you would, go over the business model and market for us now.
Well, the company is based in Canada to start with. We are a healthcare services provider. We have healthcare clinics. We have a couple of different kinds, which I'll touch on in a second. The important thing to know about our company is that in Canada, where healthcare is universal and provided by the government is having a more and more difficult time paying for healthcare, so there are services being offloaded onto the private sector. And we are private sector providers of the healthcare services that they are offloading. So that's the important thing to know here. The United States is very similar to that type of operation, and our company plans to take advantage of that here in Canada. So we have two different lines of business. One is the endoscopy business, and that business is something that is paid for by the government, but we operate the clinics privately. So we're funded by the government for those services, but we operate them for profit and private company, which is one division of our company. That makes up about a third of our sales in 2012. It's a lower margin business, but it's paid for by the government, and it's guaranteed pay, and it's high volume, and it's steady, and it's very good work. The other division that we currently have in the company is our mental health and addiction treatment programs. We have two locations for that. One is a inpatient 36-bed treatment facility, and the other one is an outpatient facility where we treat people on an outpatient basis and do aftercare for people that were in the inpatient program. This business is something that the government is able to provide in certain circumstances in hospitals, but for the most part, if people want good treatment for addiction, they have a couple of choices. One is to go to the United States, where there's a very large number of treatment centers for addiction, and the other is to go to the handful of places in Canada that have private addiction treatment. We're one of the ones that have the treatment center that's most closely recognized as the U.S.-type addiction treatment center, and we are on the higher end of the price scale here in Canada. These services are paid for privately by individuals, and it's not covered by the government. So those are the two main lines of business that we have, and we expect that the mental health part of the business will be the most prolific for us. It will grow the fastest. It's the biggest need, and there's the least amount of competition in that business here in Canada.
Very good. Well, let's learn a little bit about the leadership there at your company. Let's start with you. You're the Chief Executive Officer. Tell us a little bit about your background.
I have a business degree, and for the last 30 years I've been working in real estate development and public company operations, where we're working in sort of microcap situations and taking companies public and doing financing for companies. I don't have a healthcare background per se, and this is the first healthcare venture that I've been involved in, but my specialty is in the organization and management of a public company, and I have a great deal of experience in real estate development, which plays well into our company because the clinics that we open, it's important to make sure that the value is there in terms of the real estate, and that we're getting it priced right, as that's a large component of our cost. And of course, there's a lot of leasehold improvements and repairs when we build out a clinic, and so I'm very well adept at that part of the business. That's the strength that I have. We do hire the talent that we need on the healthcare side. So let me tell you a little bit about some of those folks that we have here with us. There's Dr. Jay Perrick, is a very experienced surgeon here in Canada. He's been here since the early 60s. He's working and managing our endoscopy unit as a chief medical officer. He works with about 8 other surgeons and up to 12 to 15 anesthetists. So he runs a large group of surgeons that work for us here on the endoscopy side of things. He's very lucky to have Dr. Perrick, a great deal of experience, and was chief of staff at one of our local hospitals here for many years, and is very experienced in managing and running a healthcare clinic. On the mental health side, we have Dr. William Jasek, who's our lead physician. Again, many, many years of experience in addiction treatment. Previously worked at one of the large addiction treatment hospitals here in Canada before coming to us. He has a specialty in trauma, which is a key for us because we get a lot of patients, especially from the police forces and the first responders, that deal with trauma and addiction. And it's important that in our treatment, which is a concurrent treatment, that we treat both the addiction and the underlying disorder. So he's a key to us in the addiction treatment field. He manages a group of 3 different doctors that work with him in the addiction treatment center. That's our inpatient facility. We don't have any doctors that work in the outpatient facility. That's just aftercare and outpatient, which is done by therapists. Our chief financial officer is Ken Lorimer, and he has many years of experience in managing small companies and being the CFO. He's had some experience with 2 other public companies, but he's been a tremendous asset for us. He's been keeping our books and records for the last 2 years, and he was just named CFO recently, but he's a big contributor to our success so far. And maybe one other person I should mention that's key is Dr. Anita Teslak, a psychologist. She is a vice president of operations for us. She's a very talented and very experienced psychologist, and is key to our assessment business. We do a lot of mental health assessments, and assessment is a big part of the addiction treatment program, and we plan to do a lot more work in just assessments on a standalone basis. So that's kind of those are the key folks involved in the company at the moment.
Well, very good, and it's important to point out how successful this company really has been, and we're going to get into what led up to this, but let me give you a headline that we'll jump into deeper later. GreeneStone Healthcare announces fiscal 2012 financial results. Revenues up 230%. So let's go back and let's talk a little bit about the achievements for the company in 2012. Go ahead, Shawn.
2012 was a development year for us. We opened our outpatient clinic in 2012, and we also opened our second endoscopy clinic in 2012. We do have a total of 4 clinics open, and the growth of those clinics has continued throughout 2012. We will continue to grow those clinics. They're all under capacity, so there's plenty of capacity to grow in those clinics. And the 2012 year was a slower growth year from beginning to end than what we achieved year over year. We're up 230% in revenue in 2012 over 2011. And first quarter 2012 was approximately $1.3 million, where the fourth quarter was approximately $1.6 million. So there was some steady growth throughout the year, and we plan to have that growth come close to doubling in 2013 in those existing 4 clinics. We do have plans to grow by adding more clinics and hopefully acquiring others. But for 2012, those are the key metrics. And one of the things that is important to note about 2012 is that we did have a very large payroll due to us wanting to acquire some of the best folks available to us in the business of the treatment business, addiction treatment business especially. And throughout the year, after seeing what the capabilities of those people were, we trimmed our payroll down to what we require. So our payroll year over year from 2013 over 2012 will be down, we expect, about $1 million from what it was in 2012. And with increased revenue, of course, that will turn into showing profitability in 2013.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about 2013. You've laid out some of the goals for us there. What are some of the other organizational goals that you might have in mind, Shawn?
We'd like to talk a lot about our addiction treatment business. And in terms of the addiction treatment business, we have announced previously that we expect to grow to between 200 and 300 beds in the coming 24 months. We think that our bed supply, which currently is 36, will grow to approximately 150 during 2013. This will be because of new facilities that we're going to be opening, as well as an acquisition we're hoping to make during the year of 2013. It's a good metric to look at because in the addiction treatment business, there's a lot of measurement by way of the number of beds that you provide and are able to take patients into. And the bed count is something that's very common and familiar in terms of comparing us to other companies, especially in the United States, and where there's been many transactions in the last 5 years, especially back in the 06 through 08 period, where acquisitions were done based on a price per bed. Price per bed values have been anywhere from, say, $500,000 to $1.4 million over the last 5 to 7 years. And that's a good way of thinking about the value of the company. If you take the number of beds that you have and multiply it by some figure between $500,000 and $1.4 million, you'll get a good idea of the value of the company. I think based on our earnings that we have per bed, I think somewhere in the middle would be a good number to use for our valuation in terms of that part of the business.
Well, once again, we're talking with Shawn Leon. He's the Chief Executive Officer of GreeneStone Healthcare Corporation. That ticker symbol, GRST. Some of the recent news we've talked about, and here's some important information that Shawn touched on. But the company believes that its revenue growth will continue to increase steadily, and the company will become more profitable as some of those fixed costs, such as rent, salary, wages, these things are fixed. So as revenue grows, net income will grow, or the net loss in this case will decrease, as it did greatly from $2.4 million down to $1.5 million. We also talked about the addition of the Chief Financial Officer for the company, Ken Lorimer. If you'd like to learn more about both these press releases, you can do so. Ken Lorimer announcement came out April 4th, as well as the revenues that we're talking about came out Tuesday, April 2nd. Listeners, if you'd like to learn more about this company, its corporate overview website is GreeneStoneClinic.com. It's important to note there is an E in that green. So it's Green, Greene, StoneClinic.com. If you'd like to learn more about their residential addiction treatment programs, you can go to GreeneStone.net. Once again, Green spelled with an E. And investors, you're encouraged to contact the CSIR Group for investor relations on this company. Area code 212-386-7082 or just info@CSIRgroup.com. Well, Shawn, thank you. An absolute pleasure speaking with you. It looks like we're talking to you and your company at the right time with these financial results and the goals that you've got for 2013. It's a terrific time for our investors and listeners to take a closer look at GreeneStone Healthcare Corporation. One more time, that ticker symbol, GRST. Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you, Stuart.
All right, for Shawn Leon, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for listening.
SmallCapVoice.com, today's leader in investor relations, capital formation, and retail support, provides its clients with the highest level of service. Our audio interviews are disseminated to one of the largest opt-in audiences available today. How? We at SmallCapVoice.com believe in aligning and affiliating ourselves with other leaders within the investor relations community. By sharing resources, each affiliated firm is made that much stronger and each client is served that much better. Our focus is to identify and provide the very best financial services and solutions available to clients and their shareholders. For more information about our services, please call us at 512-267-2430 or visit us on the web at www.smallcapvoice.com.